Picture this. A man steps off a train in New York City after 6 years behind bars. He's just finished serving time in one of the most infamous gang cases in hip-hop history. And waiting for him at the station? Jim Jones, the Dipset legend, ready to welcome him home. Sounds wholesome, right? But here's where it gets wild. Miles away, 6ix9ine is sitting down with Vlad, spinning a completely different story. He's claiming this guy, Mel Murder, was so broke that nobody cared enough to get him a plane ticket, that his own people left him to ride the train home like he was nothing. And for a minute, people believed it. The internet ate it up. Another 6ix9ine narrative that seemed to make perfect sense. But then Billy Ado showed up on No Jumper and destroyed that whole story in about 30 seconds. Billy didn't even hesitate. He straight up laughed at the idea. "You really listening to him?" he said. "Mel wanted to ride that train. When you do that many years, you just want to see life, trees, people, stuff." And suddenly, the whole thing made sense. Anyone who's ever been locked up knows that feeling. After years of nothing but concrete and bars, you don't want some big production when you come home. You want to breathe. You want to look out a window and watch the world pass by. You want that moment to yourself before everything gets crazy again. Billy even admitted he did the same thing when he came home. No pickup, no fanfare. Just him in the world he hadn't seen in forever. But that's not the story 6ix9ine wanted people to hear. Because 6ix9ine doesn't deal in truth. He deals in division. And that's his whole game, isn't it? Create a narrative that sounds believable enough to get people talking. Plant seeds of doubt. Make people question who really had their homies back. It's psychological warfare disguised as entertainment. And it works because 6ix9ine knows something most people don't want to admit. In the age of social media, the story matters more than the truth. Whoever controls the narrative controls the conversation. And 6ix9ine has been controlling conversations since 2018. Even when he was testifying against the very people who put him on. That's where this whole mess started. With testimony that shocked the entire hip-hop world. Let's rewind to 2019. 6ix9ine is sitting in a federal courtroom, facing a minimum of 47 years in prison. RICO charges, gang activity, conspiracy. The feds had him dead to rights. And what did he do? He folded faster than a lawn chair in a hurricane. One day after his arrest, he was already cooperating. Not hesitating, not thinking it over, just straight to the feds with everything they wanted to know. He named names. He identified aliases in text messages. He detailed crimes, robberies, shootings. He sat on that stand and told the government everything about the 9 Trey Gangsta Bloods, the same gang that gave him the street credibility he used to blow up his career, the same people who protected him when rivals wanted his head, and he gave them all up without blinking. The testimony was brutal. He implicated everyone. High-ranking members, street soldiers, even celebrities. He mentioned Jim Jones, claimed Cardi B had gang ties. He walked the jury through the entire 9 Trey hierarchy like he was giving a corporate presentation, and the whole time the hip-hop world watched in disbelief. Snoop Dogg went on Instagram calling him out. The Game posted memes. Everyone had something to say about the rainbow-haired kid who chose freedom over loyalty. But here's the thing that made it even worse. There was a wiretapped phone call that came out during the trial. A call between Mel Murder and Jim Jones, and on that call Mel said 6ix9ine needed to be super violated, super duper for disrespecting the gang on the Breakfast Club. That recording became evidence. That conversation helped send Mel Murder to prison for over 11 years, and 6ix9ine was the reason it all came to light. Billy Allen sequel. Billy saw it coming, though they were there from the beginning, back when 6ix9ine was still trying to figure out which gang to join. And yeah, you heard that right. Billy literally said 6ix9ine was so desperate to be in a gang that he would have joined anyone who accepted him. He even tried to make a Crip video once. Showed up to a studio with a bag full of blue bandanas. Billy had to shut that down immediately. "You're not Crip," he told him. "We're not about to have Crips in your video." That's how lost this dude was, just chasing any affiliation that would give him the image he needed. Eventually he found 9 Trey, and for a while it worked. His music popped off, his videos went viral, he had the protection and the credibility, but Billy and 6ix9ine started noticing red flags early on, especially when they found out about the charges involving a minor. They confronted him about it, and the way he responded, it made them uncomfortable. So they started distancing themselves. They pulled back before everything exploded. And when the testimony happened, Billy wasn't shocked. He was disappointed, but not shocked. He knew 6ix9ine wasn't built for what comes with that life. He knew the kid was using the gang as a marketing tool, not living by any actual code. So when 6ix9ine flipped, Billy just shook his head and moved on. But what he didn't expect was what happened next. What nobody expected, because in July 2023, something went down that made the whole hip-hop world lose its mind. Kodak Black, one of the realest voices in rap, announced he had a song coming with 6ix9ine, and just like that, the internet exploded. The song was called Shakalaka, and the collaboration was orchestrated by none other than Wack 100, 6ix9ine's manager. Wack went on No Jumper and laid out exactly how it went down. He said Kodak got paid a whole lot of money up front. Later it came out that the number was $1 million. $1 million for one verse. Wack described how he got the two rappers in the same room, how they had a man-to-man conversation before recording. And when Kodak left the studio that night, he didn't leave in the car he came in. He left in a Rolls Royce, keys tossed to him as a bonus on top of the check. His girl in the back seat, his baby seat transferred over, and his driver riding passenger. That's how Kodak Black became one of the first major artists to work with 6ix9ine since the testimony. And the streets were furious. Now 6ix9ine later claimed he didn't actually pay that million himself. He said it came from a vape company called Fume that was sponsoring the song, but honestly it doesn't matter where the money came from. What mattered was that Kodak did it. He recorded the verse. He appeared in the video. He gave 6ix9ine exactly what he needed. Legitimacy from someone the culture still respects. And the backlash was immediate. Boosie Badass went on Instagram Live and tore into Kodak. His whole rant was raw emotion. "That man yuck messed me up," he said. "I know them zoes are messed up right now. I know the state of Florida messed up right now. This man ain't got no morals, don't got no principles." He kept going, saying Kodak wasn't a real street dude, that he was hurt and disappointed. "I don't care how much money you give," he added. "He hurt me with that one." But here's the twist. Kodak knew exactly what he was doing. According to reports, he originally regarding the verse for the song, he got paid, showed up, did his thing, but he also threw shots at 6ix9ine in the lyrics. The version that eventually dropped had those disses removed, but his producer leaked the original version anyway. So Kodak got to have it both ways. He got the $1 million, he got the Rolls Royce, and he still got to disrespect 6ix9ine publicly. That's a level of finesse most people didn't expect. He played the game perfectly, took the bag, kept most of his credibility, and still let the world know he wasn't really with 6ix9ine like that. Most people moved on. Most people forgot about it after a few weeks. But not everyone. Billy Ado didn't forget. When Adam 22 brought it up on No Jumper, Billy made his position crystal clear. "Kodak can't come to Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn and chill," he said. Not in a threatening way. He wasn't saying anything would happen to Kodak. He was just saying he personally wouldn't approve. "I wouldn't even have nobody do nothing," Billy explained. "I just leave. I don't got no problem with Kodak. I mess with his music, but I don't approve of him doing that song, so I just wouldn't want to be around him." That's the difference right there. Billy wasn't talking about violence or retaliation. He was talking about principle, about proximity, about the fact that some things you just can't co-sign, no matter how much money is involved. And yeah, maybe it's a small neighborhood. Maybe it's just a few people who still feel that way. But to Billy it matters. Adam 22 pushed back a little. He said Kodak probably kept like 95% of his respect, that most people moved on, and Billy agreed. "Maybe you're right," he said. "Absolutely. But me personally, he couldn't come to Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn and post up. It's not about the majority. It's about the minority who still hold the line. The people who remember what it means to stand on something, even when everybody else is chasing a check." Billy even clarified his thoughts on 6ix9ine himself. He said if 6ix9ine was in a room with Kodak and he walked in, he'd probably lose his mind. So it's better he didn't go to that Vlad interview. Better he stayed away, because principles aren't situational. They don't disappear because someone's successful or because time has passed. They're just what they are. And then there's Wack 100's whole philosophy, which is where things get really interesting. Wack defended the collaboration by separating business from street politics. He said on Instagram that neither Kodak nor 6ix9ine owed anybody an explanation. "When I do business with a person, I do business," he said. His whole argument was that being a gang member doesn't mean you can't manage someone who cooperated with the feds. As long as you're not putting yourself or your people in harm's way, why can't you make money off them? It's a cold, calculated take. And it's exactly the kind of thinking that divides the culture, because on one hand, Wack has a point. If you're just managing someone, negotiating deals, handling business, why does their past have to affect your bag? But on the other hand, it's the principle of it, the optics, the message it sends to everyone watching. When Adam22 brought this up to Billy, he pushed back hard. "If you're going to say that and do that, why didn't you bring someone like me, or Siko, to sit there and argue it out?" Billy said. He felt like the whole Vlad interview was set up to let 6ix9ine control the narrative without any real pushback. And he's not wrong. Wack sat there and facilitated a conversation that made 6ix9ine look more reasonable than he should have. That's the game though. Image management, narrative control, making the controversial seem logical. And Wack is really good at it. He's turned 6ix9ine into a case study in how to stay relevant without ever really being accepted. How to make millions while being one of the most hated figures in hip-hop. It's genius if you think about it. Diabolical if you care about the culture. So where does everyone stand now? Mel Murder is home. After 6 years in federal prison, he walked out of that facility and took that train ride through New York. Jim Jones met him on the streets and posted about it. "We don't bend, we don't fold," Jim wrote. "Welcome back, Mel. Matrix, you deserve everything the world has to offer." Meanwhile, 6ix9ine is still out here creating narratives, still stirring up drama, still trying to make people believe he's more relevant than he is. And honestly, it's working, because we're still talking about him. He recently violated his probation again, admitted to possessing illegal substances in federal court. He could be looking at more time, but even from behind bars, he'll find a way to control the story. That's his superpower. Billy Addo is still in Brooklyn, standing on the same principles he always has. He's not chasing clout, he's not looking for attention, he's just living by the code he believes in. And yeah, maybe that means Kodak can't come to his neighborhood and hang out. Maybe that means he'd walk out of a room if certain people walked in. But at least he knows where he stands. At least he's not compromising for a check or a headline. Kodak, on the other hand, defended his decision on Drink Champs. He said Boosie failed him as a hero by criticizing him publicly instead of handling it privately. He said social media messed everything up, turned real dudes into people acting out of character, and he might be right about that. But he still did the song, he still took the money, and whether that was smart or sellout behavior depends entirely on who you ask. Here's the thing nobody wants to admit. Kodak kept 95% of his respect because most people don't care anymore. Success is the ultimate eraser in hip-hop. You blow up big enough, make enough hits, stay relevant long enough, and people forget. They move on to the next controversy. They find someone else to cancel. That's just how it works now. But in specific circles, in certain neighborhoods, with particular people, that 5% matters more than the 95%. That's the part that sticks. The part that doesn't go away no matter how much time passes. And Billy Addo represents that 5%, the minority who still believe in something beyond the bag, the people who would rather walk away than compromise. So what's the real cost of that $1 million? For Kodak, it was a Rolls Royce and a hit song, minus a little respect in places he probably doesn't go anyway. For 6ix9ine, it was proof that even snitches can still do business in hip-hop if the price is right. For Billy Addo, it was confirmation that most people will fold when the money gets big enough. And for the culture, it was another reminder that loyalty is negotiable, that principles are subjective, that everything has a price if you're willing to pay it. 6ix9ine knows this better than anyone. He knows exactly which buttons to press, which narratives to create, which people to target. He's not smart in the traditional sense. He's strategic. He understands that controversy is currency, that drama keeps you relevant, that if you can stay in the conversation long enough, eventually people forget why they hated you in the first place. But here's the question nobody's really asking. In an industry built on image and authenticity, where's the actual line? When everyone has a price, who decides what loyalty is worth? Is it the artist making millions off collaborations with people the streets hate? Is it the managers negotiating deals that blur the lines between business and betrayal? Is it the fans who stream the music anyway, even when they say they're boycotting? Or is it the Billy Idol's of the world, the ones who quietly walk away and hold on to principles that don't make them any money? Maybe there is no line anymore. Maybe the line got erased the moment hip-hop became more about branding than brotherhood, more about virality than values, more about who can make the most noise than who can keep it the most real. And if that's true, then 6ix9ine already won, not because people respect him, but because he proved that respect doesn't matter as much as we pretend it does. That you can lose everything the culture says is important, and still find a way to profit off the loss. That's the real story here. Not the train ride, not the $1 million, not even the testimony. It's the fact that after all of it, 6ix9ine is still here, still finding ways to divide people, still getting rappers to argue about him, still controlling narratives from the outside, and as long as we keep talking about him, he'll keep winning, even if nobody wants to admit it.